Alrighty, what's up, people? We're back with another AZR video. Third, fourth time's a charm, something like that. But I read a lot of the comments that you guys have left. By no means of these videos going viral or anything. That's not really the goal here. Just trying to help out a couple people that are having some trouble with this thing. But I'm gonna try to make this as short as possible, but still deliver. From what my limited knowledge is. By no means am I an expert, but I'm just trying to help some people in the semi-auto department of this thing. We all know I say semi-auto talking about FRT, and people automatically probably assume, what does that mean, it's full auto? No, but people are getting multiple rounds, 2-round, 3-round scenarios in this thing where it's still FRTing in semi a little bit, and nobody wants that shit. It's happened to me. Fuck it, it happened the other day. This is the new can in the abode, and I want to throw it on this. It's the YHM Turbo K RB, and this thing, at first, I think in fitting this in, so this is the original 3-position from JD. Got the hammer, trigger bar, disconnect. Not the selector. I think he sends an ambi selector, or I don't think he does. No, this is the whole original package, so there's nothing to be confused about here. Now this had doubled up occasionally. I think I had attempted an H2 in this and it didn't work. I've only had success with H3s, but it had doubled up a handful of times, but other than that, it had run great. Now I throw the can into the factor and it was doubling up semi-consistently. And now I'm just going to go to, okay, now I want to run this can a lot on this thing. It's badass, shooting suppressed, it looks fucking sick. But I don't want it to interfere with this thing, 2 rounds. I want to still able to be as precise as I can with an 11.5-inch barrel and not have to be, anticipating for 2 or 3 rounds. When I'm in a fucking indoor range at aiming at a target in a 25-yard thing, and I'm aiming at the head and I fucking send one into the ceiling because this thing is now all of a sudden acting up in semi. Nobody wants that shit. So, the first goal, what I can recommend is upgrade the disconnect spring. This doesn't have an upgraded one in it, but from how this thing sits in here, now with this light in this place, it's a lot easier to see. I see where the regulator is hitting on the trigger bar. It's really good if you guys obviously have your own. Take a look at, down here and see where things are lining up. You're not going to be able to replicate it, with your hands of, unless you have like ridiculous finger strength. I don't think I've ever been able to make this thing trip without having the gun fully assembled. But upgrading the disconnect spring, what I think is happening in semi, when you release, so, I have the leg of the regulator resting right on the trigger bar of where it's wearing. With that being a factor, I think during semi, this thing is being tripped no matter what, right? A couple of people have commented that they feel a lot of movement in the trigger in semi. And just to, show an example, here's a super safety. I had replied to a couple of the guys because people expect a clean, pull in semi. If that's what you're after, man, you're not gonna fucking achieve that with this. It's a shitty, mil-spec trigger that has a god-awful coating on it. It feels gritty, yes. I mean, somebody even commented that semi feels like shit. Of course, like, I don't know what you expect. It's not a fucking Geisley. If you want a Geisley trigger, buy an arc fire or a super safety and fucking, cut an SD 3G yourself, and go at it, But for those of you that want to run the regulator, why you feel the movement in semi is because, with something like super safety, with this, this lever is clapping back and forth in your lower. Yes, it's being hit no matter what, but, you're able to, being this is a cross bolt safety design, you have FRT in the middle, semi all the way out to the right. you're physically moving, moving the selector into semi. It's moving what achieves FRT completely out of the way. What will roll over onto your trigger bar, it's not able to do that. So you're not going to feel any forward motion in the trigger. With other cassette units like the Partisan, Delta Team Tactical, the Arizona Regulator, I wouldn't call it a cassette, but if you have any eyeballs, you'll be able to look at the Partisan or the Delta Team Tactical and look at the back of them, the actual FRT mechanism, and you're like, holy fuck, that kind of looks like a regulator sitting back there. I mean, it's got the 2 pins in it. It has the little top nipple here. And then what engages, what allows semi to be achieved in those is, it's inwardly designed. It's a much more complex design. This is basically just, you're able to remove that portion. But that's why you're feeling movement forward and semi, and when I reassemble this, I'll even show it that you're not able to move this thing out of the picture. Somebody had left a comment that the selector for them is just simply removing the thing, and if that works for you, that's great. This thing fits in here pretty tight. It's not just something I can pop my I can't pop my upper off of my lower like a fucking California compliant gun and remove the thing. So it has to stay in there, and you want it to run as good as possible. So you got, now, say you got your upgraded disconnect spring, and this goes for either a converted unit that you've done yourself by making the cuts in the disconnect and the leg of the regulator, and then the rear of your trigger bar to accept the rear tail of your of your disconnect, or the factory, from JD AZR unit. You've upgraded your disconnect spring, and now it's better, but it's not 100%. That's where somebody had left a comment too that the hammer could potentially be hitting the regulator. Now, this is maybe touch and go trying to show this with this not fully assembled, but with this thing, let me line this up here. So we got our regulator and our lower here. I got my leg right on top of the shiny portion of the trigger bar where it rests, and my God, is it close, but it's not hitting it. Now, while this thing's being fired, I wouldn't be surprised. It's a possibility for sure, but I had never heard of that. I haven't really read that anywhere, not that I know of. That could potentially be an issue. If you're curious about that, seek that out yourself, but that was just something that somebody had left a comment on that I figured I'd bring up because that could be fixed for you. I'd imagine removing a little bit of material off the rear of the hammer and rounding it slightly it seems like more of a peace of mind type of fix than it does actually practical. But yeah, and then another thing too, so you have the hammer potentially hitting it, you have an upgraded disconnect spring, and now you're still not getting it. What I've found, that as dumb as this might fucking seem, now that we're all on the same page of, yeah, semi-auto and this is not the nicest, this isn't a precision type of thing. No matter what, you're not going to get a clean pull, man. I mean, this thing, I wish I had a, way to measure, but it's at least, like 6.5 pounds probably, if I had to guess. The actual trigger pressure plays a humongous factor in this because, there's another one put together, like an M16 clone, that has a regulator in it that in FRT, to get it to, so I mean, it rips an FRT when it works, but if you squeeze too hard, like with any of the cassette style of units, see how this is kind of all coming together and lining up, that you can fucking jam the thing up. It goes for the same with the Delta Team and the Partisan, that if you death grip the fucking thing, it's going to jam shit up. Some guns are over gassed enough, I've seen, that they're able to just keep chugging, which is great. But this seems a little more sensitive because, when you are, even in testing, when, you're raising the trigger bar in semi, you can see the thing lifting up. You feel the pressure and you can kind of get the picture of what's going on. But the amount of pressure that's actually applied to the trigger in semi, I think makes a humongous difference. You know, we had just gone to the range the other day, shit was acting up, and I'm like, you know, I said to my father, I'm like, you know, maybe just squeeze the shit out of it and see what happens. Sure enough, it went back to doing its normal thing in semi. So I think with this thing not being able to be removed out of the picture like a super safety, or, you know, there's no system in place that, you know, is able to avoid this thing from being tripped, that you kind of have to work against it in semi. And that's, you know, pretty much the end goal in that. And then of course, no, FRT is just hang on for dear life and let it rip. And then one last thing. So this is for the people that, if you have seen the conversion video, you know, if this is the first video that you've seen on my channel, I'll try to drop the link to this one and some of the replies on the other videos. But it's like 40 minutes long, but it's how to take, you know, a 2-position regulator with the fat leg, or, you know, the full width leg, and a regular M16 disconnect and a trigger bar, and do the full conversion yourself. It's basically start to finish how that process works. This particular issue is more for people that have made that journey and done that themselves, and they're getting FRT still in semi, and obviously, you know, they're getting FRT in both. What I can attest to personal experience is, I think it was probably on the first or second one that had been converted from a 2-position to a 3 in my possession, that the front portion of this disconnect here, this is going to be hard to get on camera, but I promise you, you know, if you have a 3-position one already, you know, from JD in your possession, great. You know, now you're in the market to convert your own. You just got your new disconnect in the mail, and now you're going to hack at it. Do yourself a favor and compare it to the one from JD, and you'll see on the front here that the tail of JD's disconnect, so the one from JD is on the left, and the one, this is probably from B Kings or some other manufacturer, God knows what, is on the right. That the front tail here on JD's has ever so slightly less material on the front. So with the pick here, this is catching on the one from B Kings that has not been trimmed or filed. I mean, you do not need to take a Dremel to this to remove this material, but obviously he made this cut in this and machined these like this for a reason. You know, this just shows you how tight the tolerance can be on this thing, where, you know, if you're getting, again, this is for somebody that has converted theirs and is getting FRT still in semi. This is, I can almost say with a certainty, the first attempt that you should, you know, to remedy the issue, this is what you should be looking at. This front portion of this disconnect here, let me try to get this good on the camera, is slightly fatter. So, you know, just take a photo of that, pass that down, and I believe that allows this just to move ever more so slightly, and achieve semi, and then introduce you to the potential issues. Now that you're, you know, in dry firing and function testing, you're like, holy fuck, I did it. And then you take the thing out to the range, and now it's doubling up. And then you're back at the beginning of this list of disconnect spring, trigger pressure is definitely a factor, and then potentially rounding off the hammer, I guess. But yeah, sorry, like, I don't have any, you know, I'm not able to hack at anything, or, you know, really go at it to show like a true tutorial. This is more just a verbal, I guess, explanation of the potential fixes. I'll try to write in the description just a quick summary of, you know, working your way down. It's a short list because at the end of the day, you know, I don't necessarily think this is bad news, but, you know, some of these, depending on your build, it just might not be fully achievable, you know, to run completely reliably. There's multiple in the house that do. This one has been a special case, I guess. So if you're lucky enough where you order it, you throw the thing in and it fucking runs, have at it. but this is for the guys that have been still struggling a little bit and bumping into some problems. But like I said, I'll try to, you know, make a better list in the description. Again, if you got any questions or concerns, please just leave a comment. If you want to talk shit, feel free. Tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. Sounds good. But yeah, take care, guys.